I found the letter yesterday while cleaning out the attic. 52 years. That's how long it sat in a shoebox, buried under old yearbooks and moth-eaten sweaters. The envelope was yellowed, the edges soft with age, and my name was written across the front in handwriting I hadn't seen in over half a century. David Miller. The boy who sat behind me in chemistry. The boy I barely noticed. I'm 70 years old now, and I thought I knew everything about my past. I thought all the mysteries were solved, all the chapters closed. But holding that letter in my hands yesterday morning, my coffee going cold on the workbench beside me, I realized I'd been wrong. Some stories don't end. They just wait. Let me take you back to 1972. Richard Nixon was president. We were still fighting in Vietnam, and I was 18 years old, standing on the football field of Lincoln High School in my cap and gown, desperate to get out of our small Pennsylvania town. I had a full scholarship to Penn State, a girlfriend named Jennifer who wore her blonde hair in a perfect flip, and a future that seemed to stretch out before me like an open highway. I thought I had it all figured out. David Miller gave me the letter that day, right after the ceremony. I remember it because it was strange. We weren't friends, not really. He was quiet, kept to himself mostly, one of those kids who seemed to fade into the background of every classroom, every hallway. I knew he was smart because he always scored well on tests, but he never raised his hand, never joined clubs, never went to parties. If you'd asked me then to describe David Miller, I'm not sure I could have given you more than a shrug. But that graduation day, he found me in the crowd. I was standing with Jennifer and my parents, posing for what felt like the 100th photograph, when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around, and there he was, holding out an envelope with both hands like it was something precious. "Hey, Tom," he said. His voice was soft, almost apologetic. "I wanted to give you this before everyone leaves. You don't have to read it now, just whenever." I took it, probably said thanks, and tucked it into my gown pocket without thinking much about it. Jennifer was pulling me toward another group of friends. My mom was calling me for more pictures, and the whole day was this whirlwind of excitement and chaos. By the time I got home that night, exhausted and overwhelmed, I emptied my pockets onto my dresser and the letter ended up in a drawer. Then that drawer's contents went into a box when I left for college. And that box ended up in my parents' attic. And then my attic. Moving through life, dragging our past behind us like shadows we don't even notice anymore. I got married to Jennifer right after college. We had 3 kids, built a comfortable life in the suburbs. I worked in sales, traveled a lot, provided well for my family. From the outside, everything looked perfect. But Jennifer and I divorced after 23 years. She said I was never really there, even when I was home. She said I kept everything locked up inside, that she never really knew what I was feeling. I didn't understand what she meant at the time. I thought I was doing everything right. I remarried a few years later to a woman named Carol. That lasted 7 years before she left too, saying almost the same things Jennifer had said, that I was distant, that she felt alone even when we were together, that I had walls she could never climb. After Carol, I stopped trying. I threw myself into work, into being a grandfather, into keeping busy enough that I didn't have to think too hard about the pattern of my life. 2 failed marriages, 3 kids who loved me but seemed to keep me at arm's length. A career that was successful but never fulfilling. I told myself this was just how life went sometimes. Not everyone gets the fairy tale, but yesterday, holding that letter, something shifted inside me. I almost didn't open it. Part of me wanted to just throw it away, let the past stay buried, but curiosity won out. I sat down on an old trunk, my hands shaking slightly as I carefully opened the envelope. The letter inside was written on lined notebook paper, the kind we all used in high school, and it was dated June 10th, 1972. Graduation day. Dear Tom, it began. "I've started this letter 100 times and I never know how to get the words right. I'm not good with words, not out loud anyway. That's why I'm writing this down. I need you to know something before we all go our separate ways and become whoever we're going to become. I need you to know that you mattered to me, more than you probably ever realized." I had to stop reading for a moment. My throat felt tight. I looked around the dusty attic at all the accumulated stuff of a lifetime, and suddenly felt very alone. "You probably don't remember this," the letter continued, "but in sophomore year I was having a really hard time. My dad had just left, and my mom was working 2 jobs to keep us afloat. I felt invisible most of the time, like I could disappear and no one would even notice. I was sitting alone in the cafeteria one day, and you sat down across from me. You didn't make a big deal out of it. You just sat down and started talking about the chemistry homework, asking if I understood the problem set. It was such a small thing, but it was the first time in weeks that someone had actually seen me. I didn't remember that. God help me, I had no memory of it at all. But as I kept reading, David described other moments, other small interactions that I'd completely forgotten. The time I lent him a pencil during a test. The time I asked him to be my lab partner when no one else would. The time I defended him when some guys on the football team were making fun of his worn-out sneakers. These were nothing moments to me, barely conscious decisions, but to David, they were everything. "You made me feel like I mattered," he wrote, "like I was worth noticing. And I want you to know that I noticed you too. I saw how you were kind to everyone, even when it didn't benefit you. I saw how you helped people without expecting anything in return. I saw your smile, the way your whole face lit up when you laughed. I saw you, Tom, really saw you, and I thought you were the most beautiful person I'd ever known." My hands were trembling now. I knew where this was going, and my heart was pounding in my chest. "I know you have Jennifer," the letter went on. "I know you're happy with her, and I would never want to mess that up. I'm writing this not because I expect anything, but because I need to be honest, at least once, at least on paper. I love you, Tom. I've loved you since that day in the cafeteria. I've loved you through every chemistry class, every time you smiled at me in the hallway, every small kindness you showed me without even knowing what it meant. I love you in a way that I'm not supposed to love another boy, in a way that would probably scare you if you knew. But it's the truth, and I needed to tell you before we go our separate ways. You made my high school years bearable. You made me feel less alone, and I will carry that with me wherever I go." I had to stop reading. Tears were streaming down my face, and I couldn't see the words anymore. I sat there in the attic, this 70-year-old man, crying for a boy I barely remembered, crying for words I'd never read, crying for a love I'd never known existed. When I finally composed myself enough to continue, the letter was nearly done. "I don't expect you to feel the same way," David wrote. "I don't expect anything at all. I just wanted you to know that you were important, that you made a difference, that someone saw you and loved you for exactly who you are. I hope you have a wonderful life, Tom. I hope you find everything you're looking for, and if you ever think of me, I hope you'll remember me kindly. Your friend always, David." I sat in that attic for over an hour, reading and rereading that letter, and then I did something I probably should have done 52 years ago. I went looking for David Miller. It didn't take long to find him, not in the age of the internet. He still lived in Pennsylvania, about 2 hours away, in a small town near Pittsburgh. There was a phone number listed. I stared at it for a long time before I finally worked up the courage to dial. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Hello?" His voice was older, weathered by time, but I recognized something in it, something steady and familiar. David Miller, this is Tom Harrison. We went to high school together, Lincoln High, class of '72. There was a long silence on the other end. Then, quietly, "Tom, Yeah, I found your letter, the one you gave me at graduation. I know this is probably strange, calling you out of the blue after all these years, but I just read it yesterday and I needed to. I don't know what I needed. I just needed to call. Another silence, longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. You kept it all this time? I didn't read it, I admitted. It got packed away and I forgot about it. But I found it yesterday, and David, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I didn't read it then. I'm sorry I didn't see you. I'm sorry for so many things. We talked for 3 hours that first call. He told me about his life. He'd become a teacher, taught English at a middle school for 35 years before retiring. He'd never married, never had kids. He'd had relationships, he said, but nothing that lasted. He'd lived a quiet life, a good life, but a lonely one in many ways. I told him about my marriages, my failures, the distance everyone said they felt from me. And as I talked, something became clear. All my life I'd been running from something I didn't even know I was running from. All my life I'd kept people at arm's length because I was terrified of being truly seen. Jennifer was right. Carol was right. I'd built walls so high that no one could climb them, including myself. We met for coffee 3 days later at a diner halfway between our two towns. I got there early and sat in my car, nervous as a teenager. When I finally walked in, I saw him immediately, sitting in a booth by the window. He'd aged, of course. His hair was gray and thinning, his face lined with the years, but his eyes were the same, kind, gentle, seeing. We sat across from each other, and for a moment, neither of us knew what to say. Then he smiled, that same soft smile I didn't remember but somehow recognized, and said, "Hi, Tom." "Hi, David." We talked for hours about our lives, our regrets, our hopes, about that letter and what it meant, about all the years that had passed and all the things we'd never said to anyone, and somewhere in that conversation, something inside me cracked open. All those walls I'd spent a lifetime building started to crumble. I'm not going to tell you this is a love story with a Hollywood ending. We're both 70 years old, carrying decades of life and loss. But I will tell you this, David and I have been seeing each other for 3 months now. We have dinner twice a week. We go for walks. We talk about everything and nothing. And for the first time in my entire life, I feel seen, really seen, the way he saw me 52 years ago, the way maybe I'm finally learning to see myself. My kids don't quite know what to make of it. My daughter asked me directly if David and I were together, and I told her the truth, that I don't know exactly what we are, but that he makes me happy in a way I didn't know I could be happy. She hugged me and said she was glad. My sons are still processing. It's a lot for them to understand, and I get that. But they're trying, and that's all I can ask. Last week, David and I were sitting on his back porch watching the sunset, and I asked him why he never tried to contact me after graduation, why he just let me walk away. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "Because you weren't ready, and maybe I wasn't either. We were 18, Tom. We were kids trying to figure out who we were in a world that wasn't ready for us. I could have spent my whole life chasing something you couldn't give me, or I could let you go and hope that maybe someday life would bring us back together if we were meant to find each other again." "And now?" I asked. "Are we ready now?" He reached over and took my hand. His skin was warm, his grip steady. "I think maybe we're finally ready to try. I'm not going to pretend I have all the answers. I don't know what the future holds for David and me. I don't know if this is the great love story I missed out on, or just two old men finding comfort in each other's company. But I do know this. That letter changed everything. Reading those words 52 years too late opened a door I didn't even know was closed. It made me look at my whole life differently, made me question all the choices I made and all the feelings I buried. Would my life have been different if I'd read that letter in 1972? Maybe. Probably. But I can't live in that maybe. I can only live in the now. And right now, I'm learning what it means to be vulnerable, to be open, to let someone truly see me. At 70 years old, I'm learning lessons I should have learned decades ago. But better late than never, right? If there's anything I want you to take from my story, it's this. Don't wait 52 years to read the letters life gives you. Don't pack away the important things and forget about them. Don't build walls so high that no one can reach you. And most importantly, don't be so afraid of being seen that you spend your whole life invisible, even to yourself. David saw me when I was 18. He loved me when I didn't even know I needed to be loved. And now, all these years later, he's teaching me how to see myself, how to be brave enough to be honest, how to tear down walls and let someone in. It's never too late. That's what I'm learning. It's never too late to be honest, to be vulnerable, to be real. It's never too late to find connection, to feel truly seen, to love and be loved in return. That letter sat in a shoebox for 52 years, waiting for me to be ready to read it. And now that I have, I finally understand what everyone meant when they said I kept them at a distance. I was keeping myself at a distance, from my own truth, from my own heart, from the possibility of real connection. I'm not keeping my distance anymore. Total char count, 16,847.